I am Dr. Nick, the Apostle Paul's messenger in this 21st century world. Greetings, this is Dr. Nick, the Apostle Paul's messenger here in the 21st century. And I'd like to take this opportunity to talk a little bit more about the Illumination of Conscience, which I had initiated first at the beginning of the year 2026. What I said was that I had a feeling that God was going to do something extraordinary during 2006. And I had no proof of that. It was just my own spiritual sense. I didn't really hear anything news-wise about, anything happening that was extraordinary, like an illumination or even bits and pieces of something like that. So I really didn't give it much more thought, except in February. I won't go through all the specifics now, but there were 4 experts. 2 of them were exorcists. One of the exorcists is Father Chad Ripperger, and he's internationally known as almost like a head exorcist by the Catholic Church. The other 2, one is a cardinal from Africa. The other is an exorcist in his diocese, and the other is an expert on the Fatima, on the apparitions at Fatima. Now, these are all credible people, and all 4 of them said something was going to happen in 2026. They weren't always, sure of the exact thing that was going to happen, whether it happened to everybody at one time, whether it's going to happen to in bits and pieces throughout the year. But there seems to be some action that's going to involve an illumination of conscience or bringing out problems that exist that we weren't really aware of, whether they be our personal problems, which God would talk to us directly, or whether they be problems in the community or problems within the church. So I would ask you to listen to this podcast because it's really important. What I want to speak to is that there is something happening. Something has happened in the month of March that I think is extremely significant. It's created a lot of hardships on my part and on many of the people that have heard this. But we have to remember one thing. God, Jesus Christ, is in charge. He knows this is his church. This is his world. He saved us. He freed us. We're living in a new time. It's called a new creation in Jesus Christ. We become children of God. We become heirs of the kingdom of God and to share in God's divinity as human beings, even through our eternity. But there are sins. I mean, look, Judas Iscariot, Jesus picked him to be an apostle and he betrayed him. So there's always going to be problems in the world and in the church. And the thing I want to talk to you about, which Father Ripperger known, is something serious that's happening in the Catholic Church that shouldn't be happening. How did he find this out? Well, he's an exorcist, so he has to deal with people that are considered medically as well as in a spiritual sense possessed by some demon. And usually the church tries to get an opinion from psychiatrists. They do everything they can to try to really find out what's happening with this individual. They interview the individual, so forth and so on. And the exorcist has certain gifts and talents that they've worked at, they've studied, and so forth and so on. And the bishop appoints them to deal with this specific possession that they're dealing with. So during some of these possessions, the devil, the demons that are taking over this person, they have conversations with the exorcist. And the exorcist basically can command them to do stuff, and they will listen because the priest, the exorcist, is representing Jesus Christ, and he can overcome and overpower the demon if he wanted to. I mean, that's what he's trying to do anyway. So, and the demon will fight, do anything he can to have his own way. So it's a really delicate situation. But in many instances, he's heard that from demons that they have infiltrated into the highest ranks of the clergy, the hierarchy of the Catholic Church, and that these individuals, not everybody, okay, and it hasn't got to the point of the Pope, but they have infiltrated to the highest degree that we can even imagine. And they mention names. Father Ripperger is not going to mention names, but he knows who they are. And they are involved in demonic rituals. Now, he did not say what those rituals were. And they could be, any number of sins. They could be that they're saying the satanic mass, maybe, or maybe they're involved in sexual perversion, either in a group or as a one-on-one situation. I don't know. Okay, but there are rituals. Okay, there's something happening. It's more than just an act. It's a demonic act that probably involves more than one or two people. This is serious because what these priests, whether they're probably bishops and cardinals, what their responsibility is to be really close to Jesus, to grow in their spirituality to such a point where they can help us and interpret things and give us advice on how to grow closer to Jesus. And if they're involved with demons in a demonic fashion, that's serious. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Now, I know that if that's disturbing to you, it's disturbing to me, and it's disturbing to a lot of people. The other thing is that Father Ripperger isn't the only exorcist who's hearing this. Many exorcists throughout the world are hearing the exact same thing. And what Father Ripperger thinks and believes is that Jesus has commanded the demons to reveal the person's names and that they're involved in satanic or demonic rituals. Now, so this is in some way an illumination, and it's probably a major embarrassment to those people who haven't been identified by name, but they know who they are. And they know that the demons have been working on them and they're not living their life as they made in their vows as priests. So now, this doesn't mean that it's only in the Catholic Church, but it is in the Catholic Church. We know that for sure. And other non-Catholic Christian denominations have had their share of problems with immorality and, stealing and all kinds of things that happen even in the Catholic Church. So not everybody is clean and the Catholics aren't. That's not the case here. But in these situations, these are rituals that the Catholic Church does to get rid of the demons. And the demons are, in fact, telling us that they have taken over some of the activities of this hierarchy in the Catholic Church. So that is extremely upsetting. And, there are, in the Bible, in the book of Daniel, it talks about the desolation and obliteration that's going to happen during the chastisement. This is serious stuff. Just to get us going through the chastisement, God is going to clean up all the problems. And our society now, our culture is seriously against God. You can't mention Jesus. The crucifixes are taken down out of some institutions. If you talk too much about being a Christian, you're looked down upon. We're in a time where God is second class. Christians, including Catholics, don't go to church on Sunday. God said you have to. One of the 10 Commandments is honor the Lord's Day. You have to give up an hour or 2 hours on a weekend to thank God and to get close to Jesus. You have to do that. Nothing else is more important. Listen, we spend time, and I mentioned this in the last podcast. Go back to my the podcast called Illumination of Conscience, and I speak about all the things people do. They spend hours and hours and hours doing those things, but they don't go to church for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's not right. That's not my commandment. That's God's commandment. Okay. But in the book of Daniel, it talks about the dissolution and obliteration that's going to take place. That was directed towards the temple because there wasn't really, Jesus wasn't born yet. He had died and he hadn't been crucified and resurrected yet. So, the focus was on that the temple was going to be obliterated and there would be dissolution there. So, but in the book of Matthew is really saying that it's not necessarily the Jewish temple any longer. It's because the Jewish temple at that point didn't exist and still hasn't existed and still might not exist. It's talking about the church that Jesus has in the new covenant has instituted and established, and that is the Catholic Church. And what we're seeing is the demons attacking the Catholic Church. Why would they attack something that is irrelevant? They're going to go to the highest source they can and make them look terrible. And that's what's happening. So let's see how the Apostle Paul would handle some of this. In the book of Corinthians, he dealt with a lot of problems in the leadership of the local church, and he dealt with a lot of problems among the Christians in the Corinthians community. That was a lot of the problems were sexual immorality. I just want to read a little bit. Corinthians chapter 6, verses 13, I believe, through, I'll read a couple of the verses here. Your body is not for immorality. It is for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. God, who raised up the Lord, will raise us also by this power. Our bodies are not our own. Our bodies have been redeemed by Jesus Christ, and they're sanctified. They're glorious. And if we use our bodies in the wrong way, with fornication, with immature, different sexual immorality, we're not doing the right thing. This is Paul's message, okay? Paul also talks about marriage, okay, and sexuality within marriage, and how important it is for a husband and wife to be faithful to each other and to work with each other to satisfy their sexual desires. That's really important. And a lot of times, there's all kinds of problems in marriage, and there's sexual promiscuity, lust that goes on between people, and watching pornography and stuff like all that takes away from our responsibilities to our spouses. So we want to do the right thing. God is going to straighten us out if we don't do the right thing. I'm nervous about that too. I've been married 44 years. There's all kinds of temptations. Let's be honest. I mean, you can just go on the TV, you can look at your cell phone, you can go on Instagram, you can do many different things, and you can see perversion. We're really digging our own graves, folks. And unfortunately, some of those are being exposed publicly, and that's happening within the hierarchy of the church. And I'm really embarrassed by that. I'm sad about that. I'm discouraged about that. But I have to believe that Jesus is in control, always in control. So trust in him. Don't be upset. Don't be nervous. If you don't have anything to be nervous about, if you're doing the right thing, if you're going to church on Sunday, if you're praying to God during the week, if you're respectful in your state of life, get close to God in prayer and Bible study and all the things that will bring you to a higher degree of spirituality, that's important. Not being a good person. People think, oh, I'm a good person. I help people. I do all kinds of things. Well, that's good. But God is not after you to be a good person. He's after you to be a spiritual person. And a good person, along with being a spiritual person, is great. But just being a good person and not being a spiritual person, you're not on the right track. So that's what St. Paul would tell us. That's what Dr. Nick is telling you. I would pray. Pray for the church. Pray. Pray for yourself. Ask God. Get close to God. God bless you. Now, I would ask you, because this illumination is going to continue. I'm convinced of it. Starting now, and it's going to, I don't know how bad it's going to get, but it's going to be, you'll hear about it. As soon as I hear about it, I'll let you know. But if you want to hear about it quicker, you got to subscribe to my channel, okay? Dr. Nick, the Apostle Paul's Messenger.com. You subscribe, and also what I ask you to do is to go on my website, which is, I just gave it to you. It should be on the front of the screen here. Look through that. There's a lot of information. I just set up a challenge in the blog section, so please read that and let's converse. I want to have a discussion with people. So let's take a look at what that blog says, and I ask your opinion, and we can discuss it more and more. And some of your insight might be great. I might have a podcast. I might invite you on my podcast. You never know. So let's trust in God, and let's see where all this goes. Hopefully, if we pray and we're on God's hands, and we're confident that we're doing the right thing, God will protect us. But if we're not, if we're in the wrong direction, you're going to hear about it. I'm going to hear about it, because everybody's a sinner, but to different degrees. Everybody's a sinner, though. We all make mistakes. We all do things we shouldn't do that offend God. That's our human nature. But God has created us and given us the grace to ascend beyond the human, to share in the divine. This is what the new covenant's about. God has made a covenant with us that he wants to share his divinity more deeply and intimately and personally with us. So give God that chance. You got to work at it, though. God bless you, and keep in touch. Thank you. So thanks for joining me today on Dr. Nick, the Apostle Paul's messenger. I hope this message touches your heart and gives you something to consider. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you never miss a conversation, and click that bell. That's important.
And if you found value in today's discussion, please share it with your friend. They may need to hear it. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So connect with me by emailing me at drnick@apostlepaulsmessenger@gmail.com.
Send in your questions, and let's keep this conversation moving. Until next time, stay strong in the faith, stand firm in the truth, and remember, you are never alone on this journey. God bless.